PRX.
Friends beyond the binary, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is a treat with the only trick will be keeping you company and taking your mind off of stuff and me getting confused and mixed up because it's time for one of the more popular episodes from Sleep With Me, Halloween Pasts. This is a costume nostalgia episode from the 600s. And one I get a lot of feedback about. It's a little replay, so you get a little bit more of corn in your candy or candy in your corn. Now, if you're new to the podcast and you're like, what in the name of candy that looks like food that's not the same? What does candy corn look? It just looks like candy corn. It doesn't look like corn. I agree with you. If you're confused by candy corn, raise your hand. Also, if you eat candy corn in sections, please raise. You don't have to raise your hand, actually. But I do. Candy corn. I eat it in sections. When I eat it, which is rare, every few years, candy corn. Got to go get some so I can eat it sectionally. I have 2 or 3 year old candy corn in my cupboard that's still not opened. So I'll be eating that. Section by section, I'll be keeping you company. Welcome to Sleep With Me, the podcast that's here to keep you company and take your mind off of stuff so you could get the sleep you need and you deserve. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I get to help keep you company. You deserve a good night's sleep. So this show will do a little bit of support for the show. Then there'll be an intro, and then there'll be a story. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for listening. What am I supposed to do next? Oh, these are the ways we're able to offer you this show for free twice a week. Hey, everybody, it's Scoots. You're hearing me kind of talk about supporting the podcast and stuff, and I thought of this analogy, and I don't know if you'll relate to it, because people say, well, what does it mean direct response sponsors, sponsors that support the show based on the support they get, or why should I pay for a free podcast? And I don't know, one thing I thought of is like Sleep With Me is a little bit like, I don't know if you have a favorite restaurant that you're a regular at, that you go to on a regular basis, but what if there was a restaurant you really loved? Maybe it is the restaurant you love, and you know the people that work there, they put a ton of work and care and attention into the dishes they serve, and maybe you eat there once a week or twice a week. And what if the food was free, like paying for it was optional, right? I guess a little bit like tipping, but this is different. We serve all our meals for free. Paying for the food is up to you. Now, here's a little statistic about Sleep With Me. Just imagine that the restaurant is full of 100 people or 100 tables. And, this thing with Sleep With Me is if 3 people out of every 100 support the show can get by and keep going. And if 5 people, so you're in a dining room with 100 people eating a free meal, if just 5 of those people, and I don't know if you're one of them, pays for the free podcast, the show can flourish. So I don't know if you're one of those 3 people or 5 people total. If you're one of those 5 people, this podcast can be not just be here, but be flourishing. And again, everybody else gets to eat for free, which is cool. And I don't know if that resonates with you. I mean, only if you're a regular and you get a lot out of it and you're in a position to do so. We just need 5 people out of every 100 people to take action and support the show. And I'd love it if you could do it. Please support the show. Become a patron. You get ad-free episodes. You don't have to hear these messages, but you get a bunch of other sweet bonus content. But really, you get that idea of like, hey, one of those 5 people paying, and everybody else, look at that. Look at this banquet of lulling, soothing tones. So I don't know, it's just an analogy I thought of the other day, and I don't know if it resonates with you or not. If it does, sign up, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron, sleepwithmepodcast.com/patron. Thanks. All right, everybody. It is time for a word from our sponsor, BetterHelp. And, there's so many times during my day, during my week, during my month, I get stuck focused on problems instead of solutions, whether it's working on the podcast, whether it's parenting, or just things I encounter in day-to-day life, even in the grocery store, focused on the problems, not on the solutions. And it can be really tough to train your brain to not be in that problem-solving mode all of the time, but to be able to have the resources you need when you're faced with a challenge in life. But when you get that, when you're able to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling. And a therapist can help you become a better problem solver, and that makes it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. I mean, these are the kind of things I bring up in my therapy that week. Even on the half the time, it's like the stuff I was thinking about before I went into therapy. But I'm able to talk to my therapist about anything. But normally it is the problems and the challenges, or my view of the problems versus, oh, this is a challenge or opportunity. And that's a resource I count on to improve my life, to improve the lives of the people around me. It reduces my stress. It makes my life more livable. And that's why I recommend therapy as a resource all the time to people in my personal life. So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/sleepwithme today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. All right, everybody, it is time for the Sleepy Supporter Zone, the one part of the podcast I need you here. It's where I pop my peas and say pretty please. Those peas weren't popped as much as I'm just laughing. This is the part of the show I really need you to hear. This is how we keep the podcast free for everybody. Support the listeners, support the sponsors. If you have a chance to support a sponsor, please let me know about it. We're going to make some changes here to the sponsors so we can keep the show coming out free twice a week. But we do rely on listeners supporting the sponsors. All our sponsors are direct response. And one of those sponsors is Air Doctor. Not only do I use it, Deborah got herself an Air Doctor, shared about it on Twitter, tagged Air Doctor, let me know about it. And that's what I'm talking about. If you sign up for a free trial even, please let me know about it. Let the sponsor know about it. And your action keeps the show free for everybody. And you get some sweet products like the Air Doctor, which I use every day. I'm staying at my parents' right now. The Air Doctor's running in the other room. So thank you, Deborah. If you want to be like Deborah, fill out the form at sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. The next part of the Sleepy Supporter Zone is you getting the support you need right now. If you're in need of extra support, there's links to resources you could connect with right now in the show notes, including international resources. It's also about being a member of our communities, being a part of positive change, not just saying Black Lives Matter, not just saying stop AAPI hate, not just saying support Ukraine, but learning more, taking action. There's links to resources you could use in the show notes to do that. And it's about being a part of positive change, like I said, and join our community efforts, building hygiene kits for people experiencing homelessness. You can do that for free. You could be a part of. There's going to be a live show coming up, streamed on Zoom. You could come for free. Just take part. Sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission. Just sign up at sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission. That's sleepwithmepodcast.com/midnight mission. And that's the end of the Sleepy Supporter Zone. Oh, Mr. Bard, a lot of people help out in the show. Who are they?
Posty poster son sounds like an earful. Wrote the theme song. Edits episodes. Carl W. the legend. Also edits episodes. Ashley, Kenny, Scotty, Jennifer. Runner. Eric and the team at Astound are on the website. I am the mystery bard. I do the lullabies, yeah. I do commissions at jonathanmann.net. I'll write a song for you. Any reason at all. You can tell me the story and I'll make it personal. You see the kindness shine straight on through when the listeners form their own Facebook group. Keith, Stacy, Sarah, Julie, and Jennifer. These are your moderators. Get support dear Scooter on Patreon. Buy the merch and support the sponsors. You can find anything you want at sleepwithmepodcast.com. And we're so proud that we could dance. Rusty Biscuit, Lois, Hannah like banana. Leah does the transcripts.
Thanks, Mr. Bard. Don't forget, if you get your sleep phones, sleepwithmepodcast.com/sleep phones. Let me know about it too. And that, what do you say we slow down and get on with the show? Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning? mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you can set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, stuffing recipes, like thinking about recipes, recipe cards. I think I've said this before. No recipe cards in bed. Maybe like on your bedside table in a nice bind. Maybe no binders in bed either. I think we've talked about these things before, but if you're new, let me do a real intro before I go off on a tangent already. Silly me. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you can set aside whatever's keeping you awake. I'm going to try to make you feel welcome. I'm going to try to earn your trust by being present here to keep you company. I'm going to send my voice across the deep dark night. I'm going to use these lulling, soothing, creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders, which I already got distracted by. Also, I already forgot what my pointless meander was. No, I'm not kidding either. I think my mom just called right into my brain. She said, "You're kidding, right? You didn't forget that fast?" I said, "Yeah, Mom, I did." And I'm afraid if I try to backtrack, I'll get double distractions. That's another way this podcast works. Also, mild embarrassment, because I say, what was I talking about? That is kind of embarrassing. All I can picture is an autumn mooncake, because I was just having a conversation with someone about autumn mooncakes. So I know it wasn't that, but that's also another thing on my brain. My brain says, "Hey, how about those autumn mooncakes?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to do a podcast intro for the new listeners, so excuse me, autumn mooncake brain." So if you're new here, I'm glad you're here. This is a podcast to take your mind off of stuff to keep you company while you fall asleep. Structurally, the show starts off with 6 minutes of business because it's a sleep podcast. We got to do that up front. And that's how we keep the show free and all our archives free. If you're new, not super big deal. If you're a regular listener, when your hand hits the fridge tomorrow, just remember, sleepwithmepodcast.com/sponsors. And, then you can say, let me choose how I want to support the show. So there's 6 minutes of business up front. Then there's about a 12-minute intro, which we're into. Usually they go the same way. I say, okay, I'm going to here we go. I'm going to explain exactly what the podcast is in a very not comprehensive way. I was going to say a word, and then I said, I don't think that's the correct pronunciation. The word that goes like ERUIDITE or something. Erudite, maybe the word I'm thinking of. I think there's a game show broadcast coming in. Words on my brain for 500, Alec. Oh, Alex. I always think it's Alec, right? Oh, okay. Whichever I say is going to be wrong. Thanks, Alec. I'll take words on my brain for autumn. What is autumn mooncake? No, Alec, you're not allowed to ask me what an autumn mooncake is. I have the printout in my kitchen, and I received a lot of autumn mooncakes at a recent wedding I went to. Thank you. Next question, Alec. Well, I know I'm not the host, but this is my own delusion, is it not? Oh, that's a Daily Double. Great. Podcast intro for, what is a pod? So I didn't say what is a pod. Sorry, I forgot to do that as a question, Alex. Distractions on my brain for 600. Oh, I forgot. I forgot. Do you get to, does that count? Okay, great. Things Scooter says a lot. For 1,000, please. Oh, I got to get back to the new listeners. How can I mess up a game show? Anyway, hey, I'm back. Sorry, I had to interrupt that one because I couldn't even manage my own imaginary game show. But if you're new here, so that's what the intro is. Usually it's not that gripping. Like, oh boy, is Scooter going to be able to answer his own questions? Is he going to be able to complete a sentence without mumbling? So that's the intro, and I'll explain more, believe me, But then there's like a story, and the story's about 45 minutes or so, and then there's some thank yous at the end of the show. So that's the structure of the show. And here's here's the rules, or there is no rules. Be nice. I guess that there is a rule. Hey, try to be nice. But I guess that's not even a rule. It's more of a guideline or request. That'd be nice. But you don't need to. What are the rules? So you're under no pressure to listen, which I think you probably figured that out. It's like, am I supposed to listen to this guy? He's not making it, and they say, no, yeah, you barely kind of listen to me. You just kind of tune in. So you don't need to listen, but you're also under no pressure to fall asleep. I'll be here for about an hour to keep you company while you fall asleep at your leisure. Like, I'm the voice across the deep, dark night. I'm the distraction. I could be the droning. There's listeners that lower the volume. There's a lot of listeners, that either English is their second language or they don't even speak English. There's a lot of people that say, I barely speak English. So you don't really need to listen. And you don't also need to feel any pressure to fall asleep. I think that's what I was trying to say. Like, I'm here to keep you company. And you can run episodes back to back all night if you need to. And the reason I make this show is because I've been there, sleepless, tossing and turning. I really wish I could remember what I was thinking about before autumn mooncakes. Let's see, I started the intro, and then I got distracted by, I don't know, I'm not kidding. When I tell you what just popped into my brain, I went back, I tried to backtrack. And maybe it was because we were talking about game shows, and this is probably a dated reference, so you might have to Google it tomorrow. And this is going to seem like, I guess this is like, what is that called? This is a Rorschach test for me. Like, I started going back. I said, what was I talking about before autumn mooncakes? And then I saw Cloris Leachman. Like, she was a comedian. And she appeared, I think, on a lot of game shows. I mean, I don't know my, another word that starts with an L from my Leachman anyway. But there she was standing there in the annals of my brain. And I said, excuse me, this all happened in real time. It just happened seconds ago. I got to tell you why I remember it. I said, excuse me, Miss Leachman. And she said, of course, she said, my mother's Miss. I said, excuse me. I said, and then I started calling her Cloris Leachman. And I said, is that like, I don't think I have your name. Actually, I'm trying to get past you to figure out what I was talking about. And then I said, is it really Cloris Leachman? And then I said, am I recording a podcast intro or have I fallen into my own dream? And then again, then I said, okay, I got to reassure myself. So I pictured Alex Trebek in a gray suit and with pocket square. And that centered me. So if you ever need any centering, very good image to center yourself. So that's how I made it back here. So I don't know what I was talking about before autumn mooncakes. I remember talking to my mom, and then she said, get back to the podcast and stop messing around. Or she was worried about me. So it must have been, because I forgot what I was talking about. That's why she was worried. So no need to worry, Mom. This is all what makes podcasts work. Unfortunately, I wish it was a bit. I wish I was playing a character, but it's weird to have my memories blocked by an image of Cloris Leachman and then say, I never thought about it. Is that really her? Is it Carol Leachman or Cloris Leachman? And then how do you even spell Cloris? C-L-O. Is it really, is that like, oh boy. Anyway, so if you're new, I've backtracked one too many times. But this podcast is a little bit silly, clearly, a little bit goofy, a little bit strange. Like tomorrow you may wake up and you say, hankering for autumn mooncake, which I would say it's a great thing for breakfast because I would say have half. Maybe where you are, you could get those on the internet. And, but I do know this. I'm glad you're here. And as strange and silly as this podcast is, it's for you. The highest goal of the show is to make bedtime something you can look forward to because you know you have an ally, a friend, as Baloo once said, or whoever, King Louis. Who sang that song? King Louis, or because King Louis wasn't a friend. Baloo's a friend, right? Never had a friend like me. And that's what all my friends say about me all the time. A lot of times they're sighing, though. But you have an ally in me in the deep dark of night. I'm here to help. Hopefully I'm here to make you barely smile. And to start the process where you drool or you snore or you roll around in deep, deep slumber. That's a job I take very seriously, and I take it with a dose of honor because it's really, really, I'm humbled to be able to help, and I'm glad you're here. If this is your first few times here, what can I say? I don't even know what the heck just happened. I'm going to have to talk to, I'll be talking to my professional about this one. See, is it Cloris Leachman? That's going to be the first thing I Google after I get out of here. Like, if it's not, it's like, holy cow, where did that word come from? So anyway, I'm glad you're here. Podcast's a little bit silly, so give it a few tries, but I work very hard because I really hope I can help you fall asleep. Thanks for coming by. Sleep With Me podcast is brought to you by Progressive. Are you thinking more about how to tighten up your budget these days? Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average, and customers can qualify for an average of 6 discounts when they sign up. A little off your rate each month goes a long way. Get a quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021. Potential savings will vary. Discounts vary and are not available in all states and situations. All right, hey everybody, it's Scoots. It's it's a Tuesday episode time, and hopefully I get this episode out for Halloween. If I don't, I guess there'll be egg on my face. But I was trying to think of what I've been for, I was like, oh, what could we do for Halloween? And I was thinking of my childhood, as some people like to talk about, hear about little Andy's adventures as a boy. That's me. That was me before I became Dear Scooter, before I was kissed by a pillow and given the power to put people to sleep. That's how it happened. Kissed by a nuclear pillow. I said, are you a nuclear pillow? And the pillow said, nope, I'm a nuclear pillow, and I'm going to kiss you. And from here on forward, your life will never be the same. And I said, is there any chance, I could kiss a scientist instead, a nuclear scientist? And the pillow, like when you get a blank look from a pillow, you never forget it. And then when the pillow kisses you, hopefully no pillows are listening. They probably are though. It's, no offense, I'm not a pillow. So it's like, if the pillow was not nuclear, I don't know any, it might've been just pressing my lips against, a pillow, which I do every night in some sense. But this kiss had meaning, and it enabled me to make the podcast. And I don't know what my point is. I don't know, so I was thinking about Halloween. I guess that was my Halloween. That's my because I was once little Andy. Now I'm dearest Scooter. I inhabit this role. Here's your sleep podcaster with the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story, as we always say. But I was thinking about Halloween. I don't know if I ever talked about Halloween costumes. And then I said, well, that'll be a great episode, Scoots. let's do it. And then I was like, okay, what Halloween costumes do I remember? And I think if you interview most kids, well, they might remember better. I remember Halloween. I remember trick-or-treating. I remember my dad liked to take us trick-or-treating. Maybe, I don't know, maybe at some point my parents had to split up because there were 6 kids. But when I did my trick-or-treating, the majority of the time, or just the power of my own ego, which is probably more likely, is I can remember trick-or-treating with my siblings, Carl and Sheila, and maybe occasionally with my brother Ted and my dad. And my dad did like to dress up. He wouldn't dress up. He would just, every year, my dad would have a tradition of buying a new, what do we say? This is still sleep. A new vestige, a visage, a masquerade enabler. Every year he would get a new one. And my dad didn't have like a lot of, I guess he always had these micro traditions. And so that was his micro tradition. Oh, I guess he never was free, like, with his money. Like he's a very conservative person when he's spending. So and he always did this without us. Like he would come home and he would have his Halloween, maybe a word will come, his masquerade, his thingamajig and his covering. And he would show it to us, and it would usually be pretty impressive. And I think, at least for me, I can't speak for my siblings, it was always like this side of my father that also had a little mystery, because said, "What? You went to a store by yourself?" These were just things I couldn't picture. And you went Halloween shopping? And I guess now as an adult, I can see this ritual aspect of it. That's pretty cool. Like, it's a cool insight to have. And he would always have a hooded sweatshirt. I mean, my dad was wearing hooded sweatshirts before Mark Zuckerberg, just so in Elliot from the show, which of course his name just escapes me. But way before, way before a social network, my dad had a hooded sweatshirt. So just wanted that to know, to get on the record. This isn't against Zuckerberg or, the movie portrayal, but he did have hooded sweatshirts way back before that. Yeah, or, I was going to go on a hooded sweatshirt tangent, but so that would always add to his allure, and that would usually be his costume, hooded sweatshirt, his covering, and jeans and boots or something. And to me as a child, my dad was a very big man and kind of like a giant. So I always found it like, and there is something for depending on the age of a kid, just I can only imagine what it's like for pets. I always imagine they're like on Halloween, they're like, what in the, what the is going on here? What do you do? Like if my dog gets, she'd be like, what are you doing? And I think I'll come back to like my current issues. Like this might be the year I actually bring Halloween back for myself. But so that was one aspect. Was my father liked Halloween and he liked going trick or treating, and so that was like a moment we had with my dad that I really remember and I really appreciate. And I know not everybody has that, and I will acknowledge that. But maybe you could take a strange bath in my nostalgia. But if I really remember, like when I think about the costumes, I'm having trouble remembering that. So maybe that'll come up later. Because I also know I don't ever remember going Halloween. Maybe I did like K-mart or something with my dad, go Halloween costume shopping. But I don't have a lot of memories of going shopping. So maybe that was another. It was also it was a dual thing, like where maybe I had some resentment, and then my dad had this sweet Halloween get up. I was like, what in the heck where's my stuff? And it seems like Halloween in the past, like 10 years has become a much bigger business, than it was. When I was a kid, it was a big deal. but I don't remember it being a big business. And I remember like they took whatever the garbage bags were made out of. That's what they made. And or maybe it's just vinyl. That's what they made kids' Halloween costumes out of. And like 90% of kids' Halloween costumes were a vinyl, like culottes or a onesie. It was almost like a onesie. I think it was a onesie. Isn't it like people are making fun of hipsters now for wearing rompers? And I think these actually were like a vinyl romper, which nobody's going to wear that anywhere. And you would wear it over your clothes. And just for the people that weren't children of the 80s, I'm trying to paint a really clear picture. Like now, some of the Halloween costumes I've seen are made from a flimsy material. Like if you buy one at the last minute, like let's say Buzz Lightyear, that's always a popular costume for the past, 20, 50, probably 15 years. A beloved character. Like I can picture a Buzz Lightyear. It would be like, it could be either two things, a very flimsy material and a Buzz Lightyear mask, or there'd be like an upgraded, like nearly a foam-like material and maybe with the Buzz Lightyear wings and then a mask, maybe a built-in mask. That's a hoodie, maybe a separate mask. And the foam ones, they seem all right. I mean, I can't imagine... Because it seems like you also there's a difference between Halloween costumes and dress-up clothes. I think it's just a different price point and marketing technique. But I think, because I've seen kids in both of those get-ups as Buzz Lightyear, and then maybe even a higher upgraded one that's more of like a silky material. And that one is like all the way, either as separate pants or it includes pants and like it's not a romper, but for the most part, like maybe more of a culotte romper, or what's the difference between a jumper and a romper? I guess they shouldn't have started. And was Romper Room named Romper Room because all the kids were in rompers? Also, what a fitting word for Sleep With Me podcast. How come, do they have romper pajamas? Because I could actually, I mean, I don't know if I could because I don't I don't really wear pajamas anyway. I find them way too constricting and especially because I do those dolphin dives in my bed when I'm asleep. I leap out of like my bed into the air to turn over like a dolphin does. I think we called them dolphin breeches. But back when I was a kid, back in the 80s, you would go to K-mart or a version of K-mart. That was probably the number one place to purchase Halloween costumes that I know of. So there weren't party stores or pop-up Halloween stores, like seasonal Halloween stores. And there wasn't the internet where you could it's like, why, where you could just order a costume. So you would go, you had two choices, three choices. Oh boy, I think I did tell this one story of my greatest Halloween costume. So I won't tell that one unless we need time at the end, because I can't remember if I've told it or not. But you really had only a few choices. Go to Kmart, get this vinyl one. Oh, so it came with a vinyl romper. Let me see, you make your own. Have your parents make you your own, or go to Kmart. Those are the options I knew about. So at Kmart, you had a vinyl outfit. So you'd put your legs in, and it would only go to your knees, maybe the pants. I'm picturing a Batman. So it had no accessories, unless maybe if you bought the more expensive one. But again, there's 6 kids in my family, so. Even these were probably not cheap. So it was it was a romper or whatever. It wasn't a onesie because it was just shorts. So it would go to your knees, and it would be like you had Batman legs, but only to your knees. And then you should wear dark pants or something. And then all vinyl. So it looked like a vinyl print of gray Batman pants, then a yellow Batman utility belt. Then the Batman chest and sign and neck and shoulders. And then it went down to your, to close to your wrists with the arms. And then the back of it was a bit like an apron where you tied it on in like two places. So from the back, I think they probably looked pretty ridiculous, but nobody cared because everybody had the same costumes. And then you had a mask, which was made by a thin plastic, but it was pretty cool. And that would be, the mask was like the main thing. The romper, I love saying romper. And I don't know why people are like, I guess here's the thing about rompers. I've seen the pictures, I've seen the memes, and I don't know if I appreciate the anti-male romper sentiment, except in some cases. If it's too tight, yeah, what the heck? Like, get a romper, make sure it's comfortable. Or if they're too short, just get short shorts. Why do you have to have short rompers? And so I think people are going all or nothing. Instead of seeing rompers, like saying, oh, there could be more than one style of male romper. Like, didn't the Oompa Loompas, weren't they in rompers? I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to picture it in my head. Or they were more in onesies, maybe. But it's one thing if it's like a very tight romper with short shorts, and then you're just hanging out because it's a little aggressive. It says, well, hey, can you put some shorts on? Like, I'm here, like, you're in a romper to lounge. You can't be comfortable with all that constriction. And believe me, I'm comfortable around anybody in short shorts, anybody, anywhere, anytime, in the right context. If you're like in some sort of short situation, you say, hey, well, this is a situation like where I'm in a short romper, short, tight romper, I'd say, okay. But, I think when people meme it, it's like people at a barbecue or whatever. And you say, hey, it's on the grill. Let's keep that on the grill and not like, can you get a romper that's a little bit less form fitting? Okay. So I think I covered male rompers. Or I don't know, is that, I guess because I don't know about rompers, I may be digging it in my own romper ignorance. Do they have to have short shorts and be tight? Again, I don't know the difference between a jumper. I think a jumper has like a dress with shorts, maybe. I don't know. Maybe a romper and a jumper are pretty close, so. I mean, I guess another side of the romper that I don't hear talked about is like, peeing, like, so I guess there's a lot to think about. So let's don't start sending me rompers, because that's a pretty big issue that I didn't even think about. So anyway, but these vinyl Halloween costumes were in the romper style, or what I'm calling it, because that's a very sleepy word. Then you had a mask, and the mask had one elastic band, and depending, most of the time it wasn't even elastic, it was just a rubber, it was two staples and a rubber band, not a rubber band, but I guess it's an elastic band, but very rarely was the elastic band covered in, sometimes elastic bands are covered in material. These were just usually straight rubber. And this could be, mask was easily, these masks were really only good for Halloween night. You work it out and then you say, okay, then you can just be Batman as much as you want. I think we would put them away, but we'd always outgrow. So I don't know if my poor siblings had to wear like duct taped versions of my Batman or whatever Darth or Boba Fett Halloween costumes. If so, I apologize. I guess I have yet more amends to make. But so those were your kid costumes. I don't want to. I think I remember my sister being strawberry shortcake. I definitely remember as I got older, my siblings being like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know. They were heroes in a half shell. They were a whole shell of heroes to me. But personally, I would say, me and Carl were pretty close in age, 22 months or 23 months the difference in age. So we would probably have coordinated outfits, but I can't really remember anything other than Star Wars. But I couldn't have been a Star Wars figure every year. And I don't know who I would have been. Probably Darth. I mean, I would be like, I'll tell you what, if I was buying a Halloween costume 12 years ago, I would be Snape every time. Get me in a Snape romper with a mask, or just be Alan Rickman. We're thinking of you, Alan, but I don't know what that has to do with anything. It was just way off. But I was just thinking of if I was choosing my Halloween outfit, I guess maybe I should just be the characters played by Alan Rickman, but I can't do any Alan Rickman impersonations. So anyway, so those were the Halloween costumes of my youth. If you were going to store-bought ones, and I can remember going with my dad. I can see Star Wars, maybe a R2-D2 one. Maybe I hope I wasn't C-3PO. Maybe Stormtrooper. I'm trying to think, but I can remember Batman, but I don't know if Carl was Batman or I was Batman. And maybe Carl was Robin. Whatever. So, oh boy. Okay, so my mind is starting to coalesce around some other like Halloween costumes that I've been. So we would go trick-or-treating. I think that covers it, like as far as like the little kid, because I don't really have a great memory except for the greatest Halloween costume ever made by my mom, which I think I did an episode on, but don't worry. I'll talk about it. So you're not missing anything. You could just email me or ask about it anyway. Because I have like not even a prepubescent like a story that I don't think I've shared. Maybe I did. But so at some point, Carl and I realized, or I guess together, since we were close in age, that it was like we were much better off. Or maybe my mom just said, forget those stupid vinyl Halloween because they would rip, or, if you try, it was like the kind of thing, if you tried it on before Halloween, the costume would break and it'd be unusable. And then you'd cry, and then and then it'd be like, well, that's the only thing. I do remember they came in these cool boxes, almost like a little tiny square box, and it had like a clear, translucent cover where you could see the mask, and then it had the picture of the happiest kid in the world, where it didn't look like a romper. It looked like they were, and then it had like the picture of the character to confuse you and be like, oh boy, am I going to look exactly like Darth Vader? Are people going to fall, down to one knee in supplication? But I don't know. So I got off. But the costumes never worked out. I get mixed up there. I'm just trying to like rack my brain. And then I remember, at some point, Carl and I started making our own costumes and using our toys and other things. And probably I got Carl in trouble. I remember one year we played like G.I. Joe type characters. And I don't know that we necessarily went shopping for anything. So I know we had made ourselves beards. And I can kind of remember getting in trouble somehow. So I don't know what we used. We probably used permanent marker to give ourselves beards and maybe even like better eyebrows. But I can remember seeing Carl, like who's a redhead with a full black Sharpie beard, and I had one. And then we'd use our things. So we played like a G.I. Joe type, more I think of Arnold Schwarzenegger. Maybe we were like in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie phase. Probably right around that age, at the height of his movie fame. And I think we had some sort of fatigues or green clothes. I don't ever remember owning any fatigues, like camo. But maybe we did, because I can kind of picture Carl with a beard and maybe like a bandanas. They were important. So I remember that. I remember one year dressing as like a couple of years I had a lab coat. At some point I got my hands on a lab coat, and that's a handy thing to have for Halloween, like, because you can really switch it up and like utilize it for different things. So I think one year I was a mad scientist. I don't know. The next year I think I was something like embarrassing, like, Maybe, I don't know, like, maybe Carl had busted me. He was a G.I. Joe, and I was a person he had busted. I think that sounds about right. Like, he was the hero and I was the villain based on G.I. Joe. So I was some sort of, like, Cobra related. I was in Cobra Commander. And because I didn't have, these were like independent Halloween costumes. That's funny, but that's what they were. And I was just talking to my daughter about this of like when you get too old to love Halloween. And of course, just like everything with me, I was a late bloomer, physically, emotionally, I'm still waiting. And even maturity wise. So I would have kept trick or treating and celebrating Halloween probably for a long time. So I'm sure in 7th grade, I probably still trick-or-treated. But I remember in 8th grade, I was in middle school, and there was going to be a dance for our school. And I also remember maybe Carl and I had done this year before, but maybe not. Like, we wanted to be punks from the great punk, like, which is kind of like very suburban. But, this is just who we were, suburban kids. Or I guess we were kind of suburban kids. But so we wanted to be punks, and we really put a lot of work into our costumes. I remember first thing we did was we took T-shirts, and I'm sure we did this unsupervised on a weekend day. And we also bought a ton of hair dye, like spray painted hair dye. So we spray painted shirts. So we had white T-shirts that were spray painted. I don't know where we got those or if they were school shirts or something. So we did that. And then we got ourselves on some our hands on the hair gel. And I was able to give myself a mohawk with the gel, with the spikes. So spiked mohawk because I had like a bowl cut of straight hair. So that was very easy to spike into. I should have just kept that for the rest of my life. Or at least, through my late 20s. Yeah, because it looked pretty sweet. And then we spray painted our hair. And I think Carl had more of like a sculpted, because his hair's a lot curlier and thicker, that he had to just, instead of spikes, he just did one straight greased mohawk. And then we colored our hair. And then we started probably cutting up other clothes. I remember I cut up a pair of jeans, and I cut up a pair of gloves. I cut all the fingers off the gloves. I probably put spikes on the gloves and probably ruined a jacket, I'm assuming. And I think Carl probably did the same thing. But I guess I still wanted to go trick-or-treating, but I was supposed to go to this high school or middle school dance. And these are the opportunities that time and knowledge and experience. So if anybody young is listening and you're awake, hopefully this comforts you. Or if you, for some reason, stay awake and you look back at things, maybe you'll be empowered by this story. Maybe not. But so... And I don't know if anybody was getting a date to the dance. I mean, I never had dates for dances, but, and it just seemed way too, like I was too neurotic anyway. It was just too stressful and probably not in the cards a lot of times. I mean, even later when you had to have a date, sometimes, but whatever. I think this was just a fun Halloween dance. And I don't know if my friends, we voted if we were going to dress up or how we did that, or but I was going full bore as a punk, so I don't know what happens with my friends. Some people a couple of my friends, I don't know if I keep in touch with all of them, but some of them were on a little bit of a cooler side, so they might have been not dressed up, and then some of my friends were embracing that child side still, so they would have dressed up. And then some of my friends might have been halfway in between or too nervous to dress up. But I remember I showed up at this dance, and I probably got dropped off by my mom, maybe with my friends, but maybe not. And maybe that was already But I was like this, like I was a method, like I had descended into the, like in my eighth grade mind, I was a punk now. And I literally looked like I just rolled out of the West Village and straight into Syracuse, New York into an eighth grade dance because I was already like very pale skinned and I think my brow was furrowed at birth. So I had a furrowed brow and I probably had a jacket that I cut the arms off of, probably a jacket that I loved. And I loved the gloves that I cut the fingertips off of. And here's like a interesting thing to learn. Like I said, so I showed up at this dance and out of all the people, let's say there was like 150 kids at this dance, seventh and eighth graders. I guess I already had a reputation and I don't know what that reputation was, which we'll kind of get into. But I like, when I was in seventh and eighth grade, it was when I was the most social and least introverted in my life. And definitely the overthinking of post-puberty probably like impacted me being more introverted or more protective or whatever, closed off. So at this time, I had a lot less to lose because not all my natural drives and the associated thoughts had cropped up. So I was less likely to be embarrassed. I mean, much like a lot of these shows that are popular with the child protagonists. And so I think like out of all the kids at the dance, like maybe half the kids were dressed up and maybe half the kids weren't. And maybe a very small percentage of the kids went full bore in dressing up like there was a contest. Though maybe, I don't know if there was a costume contest because I don't remember winning it. But I remember I was one of the most costumed people. But my costume was a point of conversation. Like it was like, and I think this is the key thing. Like a lot of times we see things as like you're being laughed at or you're being laughed with, right? Like either you're the funny person making people laugh and you're in control. And I think that's kind of sold as an illusion. I don't even know if it's true. And you're really funny because if you try to be funny, you know, or you're kind of the person like the stuff of the hard high school memories of people are laughing at you and making fun of you. But I think at some point, and the podcast was a big part of this, is realizing there's actually a middle place where you can have another reaction from people. And it's like part of it is confusion because they're like when I showed up at this dance, like there was people laughing with me and there's people laughing at me. But most people were like, and I never realized this, unfortunately, like that this I think I was always overanalyzing things, that there was more people were like, stunned is the wrong word, but something like stunned and not quite impressed, but, I mean, maybe confused of like, who the heck is this kid? I don't know, because there is something illicit in a positive way about kids that like don't care. Like just say, hey, I'm here, I'm fully dressed as a punk. Like to the kids that are maybe cooler that are like, well, I didn't dress up because I'm too cool or I want to seem cool. That maybe like I didn't have any confidence. I only had my youth and my gullibility and I guess a little bit of my still love of Halloween. But so I arrived at the dance. I remember my hair was blue on one side, I think, and like pink on the other. I had my spray paint shirt, some sort of vest, gloves, and then jeans, which I had ripped open, and maybe like high top sneakers with no laces. I don't know what I was wearing shoes wise, or maybe I found some sort of boots. Oh, you know what? No, because I remember someone gave me their boots. Someone had combat boots and we traded shoes at the dance. So I arrived at the dance and like I said, there's this middle thing. And this happens a lot with the podcast where people are, they are laughing at you, but in a way that's not negative. where you're being yourself. You're not like, okay, I mean, this happens to me all the time with podcasts, like in the intros. I'll be being myself, and it happens to me in my regular life too. And people will laugh because your perspective is so much different than theirs, and it's amusing to them. And I mean, I laugh at other people sometimes, but it's not a mean-spirited kind of laughter. It's like a dissonant laughter, but it's a positive. Like so much of this good humor from good comedians or good drama comes from misdirection. And in that case, it's an intentional misdirection. But in this case, it's just natural, the misdirection of being yourself. And so a lot of people were blown away when I showed up at this dance. And not in a heroic, like in a very gray area blown away of like, what in the heck? And I remember people studying my outfit and me kind of like, being pleased and kind of showing it off. And then, some seventh grader who actually, there were some actual real punks. So this one kid was like, here, wear my combat boots. You'll look even more hilarious. And as I said, I don't know how much dancing I did, but I did like to dance. Like I did like some of that. I did have positive association with acting goofy. But I was never the class clown because if I was clowning around, I was just being myself. And maybe like I was privately like using an English accent or anything or something. But I can remember like mostly being surrounded by younger kids, like seventh grade kids, that I kind of like either rode the bus with. I can remember like one of the kids that was actually like, a little bit more, maybe he had an older sibling or he was a little bit tougher and in the kind of real punk range. Like I was hanging out with them because of our tracking at our school, I had a closer relationship with the kids that were in my track. And at some point, things did I think one thing that this can trigger in other kids is, like sometimes it could trigger a little bit of jealousy. Like maybe people were thinking I was more confident, or maybe because sometimes there's a strange vibration in what we do. And so at some point, and I'm not sure who it is, but this don't worry, this story immediately flips to the positive. Because I was hanging out with these two kids that were like seventh graders that tended to be in more trouble. And because they thought they were eating up my jokes and my punk material, and they just seemed to be like more blown away than anyone else. And maybe behind my back they were laughing at me, but I don't think so. And I don't necessarily remember it. And even the class clowns, I think the class clowns in our class, I can remember one kid. Even if they didn't dress up, the class clowns love clowning around. And 7th and 8th grade can still be a time where your quirks are a little bit more embraced. Not always, but at some point I was dancing, and some of the kids, and I don't even remember who it was, decided to further the rips on my jeans on the dance floor. And maybe it was out of whatever aggression or jealousy or whatever. And there wasn't much room up my thighs to go with the rips. And again, I guess this is like a masculine, thing is maybe there was an attempt to demasculate, whatever, so immediately my, inner thighs were almost exposed, but immediately two of the, more troublemaking kids, leapt to my aid and then helped me repair my outfit with my bandana. I think I had a couple bandanas on, maybe around my arms or something. So then I was able to put bandanas around my inner thighs to kind of hold my pants together. I think maybe I also bleached the pants. There was jeans. I think they were jeans. And then eventually I returned my combat boots to my friend. And I guess that's all I really remember about the dance. I remember feeling a little bit bad about ruining the gloves, but I also it was because me and my brother Carl had gotten matching gloves. Mine were gray, his were black. for when we would go sledding. So I think that winter I was probably regretting cutting my gloves. And I can't imagine my parents were overjoyed. But yeah, I remember, and I was a very small kid. This is like, not only was I a late bloomer, like I was late to grow. So I was always like a really short, skinny kid, smaller than all my classmates, I think until I was like 16, that I kind of grow to kind of exact average or whatever. And so that was a story. Like, I think that like it's just important to remember that. And that's the nice thing about making this podcast is like learning that there really is a huge value in being yourself. And it's a huge gift. I don't think you can like I always think about it with my daughter, and I have this, bubbling feeling of wanting her to be the wonderful self she is and to protect that, to create a safe place around it, but know that that is, that I can only do so much, that's really her journey that she's going to be making as she gets older. But that is a Promethean thing to try to carry back, even if you're like you're sound asleep or you're listening here along with me, to remember your quirks are the things that connect you with other people, really. And they are the things that make people laugh. And sometimes they're just laughing out loud and almost like disbelief. But I think that's like this wonderful vulnerability that you allow me as a podcast listeners. And maybe that's where the success of a lot of successful comedians that have podcasts, I don't know, I've never studied it as an external thing. But it always seems like when you're really making people laugh, you're just being yourself, at least for me, and giving my natural observations, and then it cracks people up. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, to look at the world from a little bit different angle and to love Halloween. Now, as I promised, I would finish up with the best Halloween costume I ever had, just in case. I remember telling this story, but maybe it wasn't on the podcast. But there was one year when I was in somewhere around 4th or 5th or 6th grade that my mom decided to make a Halloween, go all in on a Halloween costume. And I don't know where she got this idea. I'll have to ask her about it. Maybe I can interview her. But she decided to make a Pac-Man arcade cabinet as my Halloween costume. And it was an unbelievable accomplishment by my mother. It looked like an arcade cabinet. It was made of cardboard that she had put together. So it was the exact shape as an arcade cabinet. And then she had painted it and used construction paper to make it look like the Pac-Man arcade cabinet. And then she had a joystick, which was made out of some, it was the exact same size as a joystick, I think that twine or something, like a wooden thing that twine or something would come on. I don't know how she did the buttons. And then she did a screen with like a tin thing that a microwave dinner would come in or something, and then did the Pac-Man layout with cardboard and ghosts and Pac-Man. And it was just the kind of thing that you stuck your head in, and there was 2 holes for your eyes, or my eyes, and that was it. Like, you just walked around in it, and it would just happen to be the year, I think that was like when Pac-Man had a cartoon, and Pac-Man had everything: cereal, cartoons, TV shows. And so whatever grade I was in, we had a Halloween party. We had 2 4th, 5th, 6th grades. I don't remember what year it was, but one other kid became as Pac-Man, and his parents had made him a full Pac-Man head out of cardboard and yellow paper. And it was amazing. I mean, it was a tie for the class Halloween costume because both parents, I mean, I barely did anything. So this was all my mom's work. Yeah, but we both, everyone was like, wow, you can't beat those good costumes. And then I was also in the Cub Scouts. I never made it to the Boy Scouts, as people that listen to this podcast may or may not know. But I was in the Cub Scouts with my buddy Pat that I've been friends with. I'm still friends with today. I've been friends with him since kindergarten. Pat T. And a couple of other kids I went to grammar school and I don't know if I went to high school with them. I think maybe I did. And we were in Cub Scouts together. And I remember we had a Halloween costume night too, contest, and I got to win that one. Oh boy, I just had a memory alert. And I think I told that story too, but so I won that Halloween costume, and I remember that was a high point, and, I don't know if, hopefully my mom's asleep, but if you're listening, Mom, thank you so much for that. It was just, like the amount of work it put in, and I hope my joy in winning all the awards and the joy and glory I got, I probably didn't thank you enough. And that's the kind of thing that you can't, like where homemade Halloween costumes can transcend store-bought ones and transcend years and decades in some magical way. The reason I said, I remember the next year for that Cub Scout Halloween thing, I didn't have a costume, probably because I was like, Mom, you're going to make me, she's like, by the way, I got 6 kids. You only get one Halloween costume in your life. And for you, it was great. But so the next year, that's when I had acquired a lab coat. And then I had Groucho Marx glasses. I thought it was just a disguise. I was under the impression that these Groucho Marx glasses were what spies used, because it always said like undercover kit when you bought them. It was framed glasses, a nose with a mustache. So I thought I would be like, I really had no idea. Maybe this was my subconscious at work. But so I wore the lab coat and those glasses with the nose and the mustache. And I was like, okay, I'll just be a weird doctor and like a crazy doctor or something. And I can ham it up and act, and I'll be fine. But then once I started the Halloween parade, like some grandparents or parents were like, oh, that's the greatest Groucho Marx I've ever seen. And I'm not trying to be funny. Like I was like, I'm sorry. Like I remember this grandfather, he goes, get over here, Groucho. And I was like, I don't have it. I said, well, I don't know what this guy said. He goes, here, you need a cigar. And I think maybe it's from Duck Soup, Groucho with, but whatever. And then he said, here's how you do the cigar. And he gave me a pen. And he said, put it in your mouth and you say, bada, 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 call me later, whatever, And so then he started doing Groucho, even though I didn't have any idea who that was. Then the pen exploded in my mouth and all over me, which I just added, like I said, why, like I guess to myself, I was like, why can't the guy just mind his own business? It just wanted to be, but so the pen got all over my face and probably ruined his pen, and maybe it didn't ruin the lab coat because I used it the next year or the same Halloween to be whatever G.I. Joe, whoever G.I. Joe caught. My brother was G.I. Joe. So I don't know. That's a couple of Halloween memories for you. And I hope you get a positive association, with the journey we took. Thanks for listening and good night. Okay, I want to thank everybody who reviewed the show from Apple Podcasts. Or most of the people, LaRoche said terrible. That's it, 1-star terrible. They said terrible twice. So terrible, they said it twice. But Corey and Gabby said 10 of 10. Really helps. Falling asleep during them. Perfect ratio of interesting to funny, chill vibes, calming voice. Of all the sleep aids I've tried, none have worked as well as this podcast. I'm so glad I've heard about it. props to Jen and Julian. Thanks, Jen and Julian. Hopefully I didn't wake Julian up there, though. Got to thank Julian in person, in live stream. Anyway, could not recommend more. Thank you. Doodle Jungle from Canada. No, Doodle Judge. I was just picturing a doodle of jungles. Most of mine look like overgrown grass, most of my doodles. But the Doodle Judge really helps from Canada. Host has a mild rambling voice, loves me. It lulls me to sleep when I'm having trouble turning off my brain. Recommend it to everyone with insomnia. Double L to the really, from the UK. Like a boring partner in my dreams. I adore how he never says anything quite interesting. That's real skill, Winky Poo. The most demotivated and boring podcast ever. Perfect. It's weird how the good reviews can mirror the, actually they're kind of like, yeah, they are a mirror for the bad reviews. This is another good one, though. Amy Mojo from the UK. Maybe we got some press in the UK I didn't know about, because, but thanks. My go-to aid, like many others, I was skeptical at first, very intelligent, but worth pushing through the initial awkward stage. I guess that's the difference between a listener and a disliker, of getting used to someone talking as you fall asleep. I use it every night now. I've only begun listening to TNG. It has such nostalgia and personal connection. Ashley from the USA says it oddly works. It's so weird. Not weird, but weird in a way that really works. I actually said that without stumbling. Puts you to sleep and helps distracting you from those late night. Oh my God. I remember that embarrassing thing I did 5 years ago. Thoughts from affecting you. Keeps you company, keeps your mind mellow. Thanks, Ashley. Cougulette, Alouette, Jonto à la Cougulette. I don't know how it works, but it does. Like other reviewers, I haven't finished an episode yet. It's the craziest thing. I'd love to know the science behind this. Maybe he's talked about it. It's just weird science. It's just the science of being weird, as other reviewers have said. Slept through it. This one's from Jen. She just, what? Sorry, this is terrible. 25 minutes. Baffling, and it like just goes on with about the points Jen dislikes, which are the same points that other people like. So it's just it doesn't work for everybody. Mamo Ammo from Ireland, Z's podcast genius, wonderfully weird. Can't tell you how any of the stories are about because I'm never awake long enough. Nasu, love the podcast. I was skeptical at first. Because I like to sleep in silence, but head falls. I'm falling asleep during the noises in my house settling. Host is so soothing, doesn't make you feel pressure to fall asleep or even listen. It's a real treat, like white noise, comforting in its monotony. Rarely make it past the intro. This one is from the UK, Janira, disappointed. Read great things about this podcast, but 1 star didn't work for me. Hiptika. From Australia, weird, but don't give up on it. Give it a week and you won't regret it. Scooter's such a nice guy. He really wants to help people fall asleep. I love it. I love you. Hepatia C from Brilliant from Australia. How about this one? Coming in from a meme. Me, 1234 321 meme. It really works. Coming from a person who has trouble falling asleep and staying asleep since I was young. Seems weird at first, but who cares as long as it works? The roses, exactly what I've been looking for. Don't know how I didn't know about this podcast till last week, but I'm glad I found it. Sometimes I make it to the end, sometimes not. If not, I listen in the morning or pick up where I left off. Either way, I usually listen to the entire podcast. Why? Because I find them hilarious and LOL at least a few times. Thanks, dear Scooter. Thanks, roses. How about this one? Shop nonstop, all Z's, and then 5 sleeping faces. They just like not being able to fall asleep when it happens. I reach for this podcast, and I'm sleeping minutes. I recommend it to friends who are trying to break the reliance on Ambien and are sure stressed. Give it a try. JLove6 says 5 stars of sleep works every time. Frustrated and annoyed, actually. Yeah, this is a mirror. They say, even puts my puppy to sleep 5 stars. As someone who usually struggles to fall asleep, this podcast is a godsend. Usually spend my nights thinking about embarrassing stuff, overanalyzing, overthinking, revisiting. With this podcast, it doesn't take it long for me to drift off into sleep. I also have a puppy who can be quite vocal. As soon as I put the podcast on, he went to sleep. Thanks. MJ and Saj, thanks for making the podcast. Worst time falling asleep. I came across this podcast in a desperate search. Since then, I've been falling asleep to every night to After Glass Slipper. Thanks again for doing this. And then we have two more less than stellar reviews because the podcast just doesn't work for everybody. Thanks, everybody, for reviewing the show over on Apple Podcasts or wherever you consume it. Good night. All right, everybody. It is getting in, we're getting into that fall season is coming up here, and there's nothing better for me than snuggling up in my bed against that cold autumn air, getting cozy, getting comfortable in my Helix Dusk Luxe. Nothing else compares. And every time I travel, I'm reminded, oh boy, can't wait to get in that coat. Maybe I'll have some pumpkin spice tea in my bed, in my Helix Dusk Luxe with me. But Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences. The Helix lineup includes 14 unique mattresses, including a collection of luxury models, a mattress for big and tall sleepers, and even a mattress made just for kids. So how will you know which Helix works best for you and your body? You just take the Helix Sleep Quiz and you find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes. And your personalized mattress is shipped straight to your door free of charge. Helix knows there's no better way to test out a new mattress than by sleeping on it in your own home. And that's why they offer a 100-night risk-free trial. Try out our new Helix mattress, see how your body adjusts, and if it's not the best fit, you're welcome to return for a full refund. Everybody's unique and everyone sleeps differently. That's why Helix has several different mattress models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep preferences and feel preferences. There's models with memory foam layers to provide optimal pressure relief if you sleep on your side. Models with a more responsive foam to cradle your body for essential support in stomach and back sleeping positions. Plus enhanced cooling features to keep you from overheating at night. And if your spine needs some extra TLC, they got you. Because every Helix mattress has a hybrid design combining individually wrapped steel coils in the base with premium foam layers on top. It's a perfect combination of comfort and support. And back when I took the Helix quiz, helixsleep.com/sleep, I sleep hot. Sleep on my stomach. I sleep on my side. I got matched with the Helix Dusk. I picked the Helix Dusk Luxe, and I've never looked back. I sleep so solid on that thing. It's so comfortable, so cozy. Keeps me cool, keeps me cradled, keeps me comfortable. Not only is it the best mattress I've slept on, but the setup was free and easy. Helix mattresses are delivered in a box straight to your door for free. Plus, Helix mattresses are American-made and come with a 10 or 15-year warranty, depending on the model. And remember, you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. If you don't love it, I know you will, but if you don't, they'll pick it up for you and give you a full refund. And if you don't want to take my word for it, Helix was awarded the #1 mattress pick by GQ and Wired magazine. It is even recommended by multiple leading chiropractors and doctors of sleep medicine as a go-to solution for improving your sleep. And Helix is offering up to $200 off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. Go to helixsleep.com/sleep. That's helixsleep.com/sleep. With Helix, better sleep starts now. All right, everybody, it's Scoots here, and it's time to talk about tonight's sponsor, BetterHelp. And I don't know if you're anything like me, but you've heard me talk about this before. A lot of times I'm focused on problems and not solutions, whether it's with the podcast, whether it's at the grocery store, with my car, interpersonal stuff. I'm never focused. You know what I mean? I'm always thinking, oh boy, how's... So it can be tough to train your brain to stay in problem-solving mode when you're faced with a challenge in life. And to see those challenges as opportunity. Really, a lot of times I even roll my eyes when my therapist says, well, maybe this is an opportunity. But when you learn to find your own solutions, there's no better feeling when you really, when I can only speak for me though, when I find that thing and I say, wait a second, this is a chance for me to grow. And I get that through my work with my therapist. A therapist can help you become a better problem solver, and that makes it easier to accomplish your goals, no matter how big or small. And it's something I get to work on every single week. And it helps me to flourish. It positively impacts the people in my life. And it's a resource I would not want to do without. That's one of the reasons I try to recommend therapy to people in my personal life as a resource too. So if you're thinking about giving therapy a try, BetterHelp is a great option. It's convenient, accessible, affordable, and entirely online. Get matched with a therapist after filling out a brief survey and switch therapists anytime. When you want to be a better problem solver, therapy can get you there. Visit betterhelp.com/sleepwithme to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com/sleepwithme. Check it out. Thanks, everybody.